Good evening, my brothers and sisters. I would like to welcome you in our Lenten Recollection today, and I would like to introduce to you our guest speaker tonight. He was 20 years in priestly ministry, and he is our formation director in St. Vincent School of Theology, the Paul Formation House. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Reverend Father John Era, CM.
Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Thank you, Daniel. I'm just so happy na nandito po ako ngayon sa ating parokya ng Santo Niño. At yung mga sumusunod sa atin, na mga viewers sa live stream ng Facebook, magandang gabi po din sa inyong lahat. Ako ay tubong Tandansora, kaya nakita ko tong simbahan na to ginagawa, no? I saw how this was erected, no? Pagdadaan kami dyan ng daddy ko, no? Siguro mga 1980s ito ginawa, no? If I'm not mistaken, ang simbahan na ito. Mga 1980s, I remember, ako po batang-bata pa po noon. At first time kong makapasok sa simbahan na ito. I always just see this from sa kalsadang yan, bago pa ang SM din noon. Naalala ko po yun, no? Kaya ako ay masayang-masaya at nandito po ngayon sa inyo, no? Okay, for our recollection this Lent, no, the topic is gifted to give, no? Ito ay tema ng ating celebration ng 500 years, no, ng Christianity sa ating bansa. And I really like the title, no, yung temang ito, no. When I first heard this, napakaganda, no, gifted to give, no. Para sa akin, malaking responsibilidad pag sinabi natin na tayo ay niregaluhan, no. And if it is a gift na tinanggap natin, no? Di ba pagka nakakatanggap tayo ng regalo, masaya tayo, no? I'm sure na tuwan-tuwa tayo kapag meron tayong natatanggap na regalo, no? And we feel affirmed somehow when people would give us gift. Why? Because when we receive a gift, what does that mean? Special tayo. Right? No? Kapag nakatanggap kayo ng regalo, ibig sabihin nun, kayo ay special sa taong yon. At dahil special kayo, pinapahalagahan kayo. At minsan, no, although sinasabi natin, no, it's the thought that counts. No, hindi importante kung gaano kamahal o kamura ng regalo, ang mahalaga ikaw ay naalala, no? And when you receive that something, no, you feel so proud. Pero I have to say, no, minsan, no, let's admit, no, pagka medyo mahal yung binigay sa atin, mas nakaka-affirm. No? Ibig sabihin, talagang pinaggastusan ka ng taong yon, no? Dahil kapag ang regalo ay mahal na mahal, and we measure it according to what? Siguro sa cost, no? Ayan ang way of measuring natin, no? Doon natin nakikita kung gaano tayo ka-importante, no? And our gift, I think, is the most expensive gift that we receive from God. Kaya tayo ay napaka-espesyal. At paano tayo magiging espesyal? Ipapakita ko po rito, no? And throughout history, what makes us so special? Bakit tayo niregaluhan ng Diyos na sobrang mahal na regalo, no? Kaya lang po, pag mahal po ang regalo, yung nagre-regalo minsan nagiging demanding sa atin. Di ho ba? Kapag binibigyan kayo ng regalo, at napapansin nyo, naku, medyo mahal yung binibigay sa akin, you feel indebted to that person. Tama? No? Minsan nga ho, yung nagre-regalo, nagiging demanding na eh. No? Kaya sabi natin, hindi mo pwede, kailangan gawin mo to, no? Kaya meron tayo din ng ethics of giving, no? Minsan kasi nagiging pwedeng gamitin din ito para makontrol tayo, no? Tama yon. Nagiging demanding. And I think that's part of any relationship. Hindi mawawala ang demands. No? Meron ho ba ritong magkasintahan na nandito ngayon? Taas ang kamay. Wala. Wala, no? Pero meron dito mag-ina. Ano? Di ba? So, si Mami, kapag ka nagregalo kay Daniel, you expect something dahil nanay, no? Kailangan maging mabuting anak yung bata, no? Pag binibigyan, no, ina-expect mo na sana naman, no? Balikan din ako ng kabutihan ng anak ko. It's normal, no? Parte ho yan. Kasama yan sa relational aspect ng giving. Kaya dito, ipapakita ko ngayon kung ano itong regalong ito na binigay sa atin ng Diyos at ano ngayon ang expectations niya sa atin. May expectation po ang Diyos, no? Yes. Mamaya, pag-usapan natin yan. Alam niyo po itong Bible verse na ito. Go to all the nations and proclaim the good news. Maririnig po natin yan, lalong-lalo na ho pagkatapos po ng Lent, where, what? Christ will be proclaiming to His disciples, you have to go out. You have to go. I did my part, now I am about to leave you. And when I leave you, I expect that you go and proclaim what I taught you. Kung ano yung tinuro ko sa inyo, kailangan i-proclaim ninyo to all nations. And I will argue, why is that important? Bakit kinakailangan natin mag-evangelize? Ayan po yung word. Sino ho rito mga leaders po ng simbahan, lay leaders? Kayo lahat? Tama? No? Mga youth leaders, meron dito, taas sa kamay. Youth leaders? Youth leader ka ba? Hindi. O mga sa ministry dito sa church, kayo po, no? O pagkatapos po nitong talk ko, nako, sabihin nyo, nako, Father, ang dami pala naming responsibility. Yes, marami po. And I will talk about that. Why it's so important to proclaim to all the nations the good news. Why? No, mamaya, pag-aanin natin yan. Nakita niyo ba yung picture, no? Nakita yung picture dito, no? What do you see there? You see Christ teaching His disciples, right? And then after that, next picture, where do you go? The one on the right, left topmost of the frame. Actually, that is Saint Paul. Saint Paul proclaiming the gospel. No, if you are going back to the history ng simbahan, si Saint Paul masipag. He has been traveling and going around, starting from where Christ naglakad, pumunta kung saan, nagbangka. For what? To proclaim the good news. Bakit nga ba nagsimula sa Israel, sa Jerusalem, yung Christianity, para nakaabot ng Pilipinas? Di ba? Nung panahon na yun, paano? Okay? And so, Saint Paul took to heart and seriously the mandate of Jesus when He said, go to all the nations and proclaim the good news. Sineryoso po yan ni Saint Paul. At ito pa ang nakakamangha. Saint Paul is the #1 persecutor of the early Christians. Tama. Pinapatay niya yung mga Kristiyano noon. Siya ay isang faithful na Hudyo. At dahil marami ang sumusunod kay Kristo, siya ang #1 persecutor. Kaya kinakatakutan siya. Just imagine, from the first persecutor, naging #1 proclaimer of the gospel. Ano nangyari? Dahil of that conversion, no? Alam natin yung story siguro yun, no? January 25th, we celebrate, no? Conversion of Saint Paul. At dahil doon, kinalimutan niya yung ginagawa niyang pagpa-persecute. At siya na ngayon ang nangunguna na kung sino yung pinapatay niya noon, imagine, no? Nag-turn around. Dating supporter ng mga namamamatay tao, biglang nagbago. Pwede palang magbago, no? Kung supporter kayo ng mga mamamatay tao, may pag-asa pala, no? Number 1 supporter, pero biglang nagbago. So, posible. And because of Christ's intervention. And what did he do? He started going around and proclaiming the gospel of Christ. Why? Because Christ said so. Go to all the nations and proclaim the good news. Ano yung nakita yung sa baba? Sa Pilipinas na po yan, no? May mga Espanyol na nagpuntahan sa atin, no? Although it's not always a positive part of our history, pero may malaking bagay na nangyari. No? Kasama rin noon ay yung pananampalataya. That is why now, we are a Christian nation. Okay? Dinala po sa atin. Kaya kung ngayon sila celebrate na natin. Again, why? We have that mandate. Proclaim. No? Proclaim. And they took that seriously. Ngayon, nasa gitna, yung picture, kayo, no? Dahil you have received that mandate, hindi lamang po si Father ang in charge sa pag-proclaim ng good news. Kayo din po. Lahat po tayo. We are in charge. And I will tell you why. Why we are more needed now. Ewan ko kung makikita niyo ito, masyadong maliit. Pero anyway, papakita ko lang po, no? Ito yung mapa ng mga Kristiyano sa buong mundo. Okay. Of course, we are the biggest, no, in terms of population sa buong mundo. No? Christianity, no? In the millions yan, no? Christian population. Just imagine, no? Nagsimula lang, no? Kala Saint Paul, sa mga early apostles, biglang lumaki ng lumaki, no? Just imagine that power of that word of God saying, go and proclaim the good news to all the nation. Nandiyan na po. By the millions yan. Iyan lang po yung pinapakita niyan. Just for your reference lang naman po. So, let's go back. We are gifted with that faith. Yang pananampalataya na yan ay regalo po sa ating lahat. And when we receive that gift, sabi ko nga sa introduction ko kanina, no? There is that big requirement, no? Our giver is expecting something from us. Our giver is asking something from us. What? To continue on that early mandate that we had since time immemorial. When Christ said, go to all the nations and proclaim the good news. Sabihin niyo siguro sa akin, Father, ano yung gagayahin namin si Saint Paul? Maglalakad din kami kung saan-saan? No? Pwede naman, kung gusto ninyo, no? Why not, no? Baka may ginagawa kayong mga BEC rito, you go around. Right? That's one way of doing it. Or maybe you do home visits. Why not? Ngayong COVID lang, siguro baka na-hold, no? Because of the pandemic. However, you could be doing that. Proclaiming. Or maybe some of you will say, Father, ibig sabihin, maging misyonero ako. Why not? No? If you want to, pwede. No? Father, ano ibig sabihin? Kailangan pumasok ko sa seminaryo para maging pare? Why not? No? We have Daniel here. No? Why not? No? Pwede. Father, kung ayoko magpare, anong ibig sabihin? Gusto niyo mag-religion teacher ako? Why not? Kung po pwede. Pero Father, ayoko naman mag-religion teacher kasi medyo iba ang career ko. Mas gusto ko yata maging nurse. O kaya mas gusto ko maging doktor. O kaya abogado. Paano yun? Pwede pa rin. Pwede pa rin. And I'll be talking about that, how to do it. In short, You may have your own directions in life. You may have your own career path. But part of our, what? Our identity as Christians is to share that gift. No matter where we are, no matter what kind of job we hold, no matter your positions is in our society, everything is the same para po sa lahat. We have that calling. Okay. And what is that? Balikan po natin yung pananampalataya natin. Ano ba yung pananampalataya natin? Anong klaseng pananampalataya ba meron tayo? Is my faith just focus on kneeling in the church? Is my faith just reduced to praying the rosary? Or is my faith just reduced to going to Mass every day? They are all good, of course. We need that. However, because we are gifted with that faith, mas may malaking hamon po sa atin. Kaya po yung mga nakikinig po ngayon, no, yung mga nag-a-attend po ng recollection po ito, may take away ako mamaya. And this is my prayer. My prayer is that our faith will bear fruits. Sana po mamunga ang ating pananampalataya. And how do we do that? Pag-uusapan po natin ngayon yan. I think you will agree with me that our faith nowadays is being challenged. In our world today, our faith is constantly tested. How can we give that gift that we receive, that faith that we receive? How are we going to share that? Alam niyo, siguro maganda pag-usapan natin ano yung mga nagiging balakid ngayon sa ating lipunan, no? Sa ating Christian nation. Or wag na tayong pumunta sa malawak na konteksto. Dito na lang po sa kinagagalawan natin, sa bago bantay. Yan. Tignan po natin. Number 1, na nakikita ko isang phenomenon na malaking hamon sa atin. Secularization. Alam niyo po yung secularization, no? Secularization, yung parang, hindi na importante kung may religion ka. Hindi na importante kung nagdadasal ka or what, no? Well, kung nakakatulong sa yun, go ahead. Kung hindi naman, may iba kang di okay din, no? Yan, secularization. Parang wala na ang importante na lang ngayon yung maraming bagay na basta ako may spirituality ako, pero hindi na importante kung sino yung sinasamba ko. Wala na. Okay. O ako naman, sasabihin ko na, hindi. Pare-pareho naman lahat yung religion na yan eh. Hindi, pare-pareho naman lahat yung Diyos na yan, kahit sino pa yan. Kung ang pangalan yan, Kristo, o sa iba naman, ito pangalan, o iba naman, sabi ganito, pare-pareho lang lahat yan. Ayan, no? Okay? And this is a phenomenon that's happening now. And your friends could be one of them. Or your children. No? Tignan niyo mga Facebook. No? I love reading comments. No? No? Yung mga dating mga very fervent in their Christian faith, all of a sudden, sabi nila, hindi na ako naniniwala dyan. No? Secularization. Lumalakas po ngayon yan. Although sa Pilipinas, medyo hindi pa gaano, no? Pero sa ibang bansa ho, if you go abroad, no? You will know what I mean, no? Sa Europa, no? Sobra yan, no? No. Nagkaroon na kumbaga sa, na iba na ang meaning ng spirituality, no? Naging na lang, yung generalize. Kung ano yung maganda para sa iyo, yun na yun. Okay? It doesn't matter, no? kung ano pa yan. No? So, why is this a challenge? This is a challenge. Because there are many young people now who would say, I don't need to go to church because I can be a good person even without going to church. Totoo naman. You can. Kaya lang ho, I will challenge that position. No? I will challenge that. No? Dahil there are many forces out there that are influencing us. Naalala ko na, may mga magulang lumalapit sa akin, Father, okay naman yung anak ko, mabait naman eh. Pero hindi na siya nagsisimba, no? Hindi na siya mapupunta ng simbahan. Pero mabait siya, hindi naman siya nagda-drugs, no? Lagi lang nasa bahay, no? Hindi naman siya nananakit ng kapwa niya. So, I think okay na yun. Ayan. I don't know if you've encountered that, no? I've encountered that a lot, no? And what do I do? To be honest, I don't know how to react much on that. But I always tell myself na pag narinig ko yun, are they really okay? When we lose that sense of transcendence in life, are we really that okay? Look at this, no? There are now many studies demonstrating na yung mga nawawalan ng yung spirituality on believing on something like what we believe in, no? Yung depression mas tumataas. Narinig niyo ba yan? Suicide tumataas. No? And how spirituality can help them also. No? To have hope in life. No? Kaya hindi ko alam, no? Yung phenomena na yun. And yung idea na kinakailangan na pwede naman sa bahay lang, no? Magdasal, pwede naman. No? Kaya lang, ano kaya yung nadadasal, no? Ano kaya yung naa-absorb ng mga kabataan ngayon? I'm sure they go to other channels, no? Lalong-lalo na ang internet ngayon, no? Di ba? Facebook. Oh. There are many young people who are hungering from something that is transcendental. No? Yung bang hungering for that will give them hope. Hungering for something that will give them more meaning in life. Marami pong mga kabataan naghahanap ng ganyan. Ano ba ang buhay ko? Saan patungo ito? And the challenge now is that many times, no, they no longer hear, no? And when they hear whenever they hear, if ever, they hear the Word of God, how beautiful the Word of God, I am sure they will appreciate life even more. Because the Word of God will give meaning to them. Unfortunately, if you don't go to church, will you hear the Word of God? Pwede naman siguro, no? Pero look at that advantage. When you go to church and when you hear the Word of God being proclaimed every Mass, that Word of God is powerful. Why? Because that Word of God is telling us to love one another. That Word of God is telling us to forgive each other. That Word of God is telling us to serve the least of our brothers and sisters. That Word of God is telling us that we have a reward in heaven. That Word of God is giving us so many values, and if they don't come to church, will they hear that? Ano ang naririnig nila? Punta tayo sa pangalawa. Ang malakas ngayon, materialism and consumerism. Ang naririnig lagi ng mga bata ngayon, bilhin mo to, gagwapo ka, gaganda ka, no? Bilhin mo to, buy this, you will be very popular. People will love you more, will appreciate you more. No, I always use this example. No? This was long time ago when I was driving along EDSA Avenue and then I saw a big billboard. Ewan ko kung nakita nito. Matagal lang ito eh. Nakalagay sa billboard, beauty is power. Ba, hanets, no? Beauty is power. Tapos sa ilalim, sino to yung, yung nagpapaganda ng mga tao? Nagpapagawa po ng mga tao? Sino to? Nakalimutan ko. Belo. Okay. Tapos, mga magaganda at gwapong lalaki ang nakikita ro. Magagandang babae, gwapo. So, malaking billboard no, along EDSA. Beauty is power. What is that sending? What message? What message is that sending to young people these days when they see that? For me, it is just sending that message that if you want to be powerful, you have to be beautiful and handsome. Kinakailangan magpaayos ka ng mukha. Kinakailangan magpaputi ka. And how is that affecting our young people? Beauty has become very superficial. Kaya if they do not achieve that kind of standard, what happens to the young people? They get so frustrated. They get depressed because people don't like them. They feel they are worthless. And we are seeing this phenomenon now affecting our young people. Imagine, para maging popular ka, para maging sikat ka, para maging powerful ka, para yumaman ka, kinakailangan maging gwapo at maganda ka. Pumunta ka rito, pagagandahin kita, pagagwapuhin kita. Eh yung mga walang pera, sorry na lang kayo. Your worth now is dependent on physical appearance. If our young people will be hearing more the Word of God, will the Lord say, for you to go to heaven, take glutathione every day? Di ba? Will the Lord say, if you want to have eternal reward in heaven, no? Okay? You wear this branded shirt and shoes and be always updated with the best technology. Is that what we hear in the Word of God? Of course not. The Word of God is very opposite of what the world is telling us. Alam niyo po, psychologist po kasi ako, no? Kaya po medyo ganito po siguro yung aking kaya pasensya na po, no? Pero itong mga nakikita natin ito, nakaka-apekto po talaga. Do you think these advertisers will not spend millions if they will not get back anything? They know. That's part of the psychology. No? They know. They invest thousands of pesos for these advertisers. Why? Advertisements. Kasi they will attract buyers. Meaning to say, the more you see that, the more you are influenced by them. Pag araw-araw kang dumadaan ng EDSA, one of these days, magugulat ka na lang. Bili nga ako ng glutathione, magpa-inject nga ako. No? Magulat ka na lang, no? O kaya, ano yung usong sabon, no? Marami, di ba? Tutuwa ako pag pupunta ako sa, sa mga mall, no? Yung mga Kojic, no? Ang dami, no? Talagang sumikat siya ngayon, no? The power of advertising, no? Di ba? Okay? So, our generation today is exposed to so much materialism and consumerism that they see that if they want to be happy, they have to have more. The world, the real world, is what you see. Ang totoong mundo ay yung nakikita mo. Alam ko, mas challenging ho sa inyo habang nagda-drive nga ako, kasama ko si Daniel. Tabin lang ho ninyo ang SM. Di ho ba? Very challenging sa mga young people na nakatira dito. No? I remember, naging issue sa school sa San Francisco ba yun? No? Na-news po yun, no? Naging issue yung mga bata, nagka-cutting classes lagi. That was then. I don't know now, no? I think pinagbawal na, no? Pag naka-uniform. So, mga estudyante ngayon, nagbabaon na siguro ng damit, no? Para para mag-cutting class. Naging issue na news po yun, no? Na yung mga bata, doon pupunta, doon na nag-school. Kasi very attractive talaga, no? And just imagine, no? Young people today are born to buy. Yung nga yung sabi. Young people today are born to buy. Kaya ang hirap, no? Kaya yung consumerism is really consuming us. And what's happening because of that? What happens to the spiritual? That is a very good question. If material things is elevated to the highest level as the value most important today, but we do not share that gift that we receive, there are other forces who will do their homework. Sabi ko nga po sa inyo, yung mga anak po natin, no, madalas po nasa internet na, pumupunta sa YouTube, no, kung ano-ano pa, at anong natututunan nila doon, God only knows. No? Totoo po yan. No? And if we do not do our part, what about their formation? Okay? Kaya we have a very big role to play, my dear brothers and sisters. We have. And I was saying, na papaano kaya po natin bubuhayin yung ating pananampalataya? Ito lang po ang aking prayer po, no? Tayo po sana, no? How I wish that our faith that is born in this church will become more active, like Saint Paul, like the apostles, like the early disciples. We become more active in our faith. And I also hope that our faith will transform us. Will slowly transform us so that we become credible bearers of that faith. Kasi nakakalungkot din po, no? Minsan po, magaling lang po tayo magsalita. Si Father, ang galing-galing magsalita, pero wala naman sa gawa. Di ba? Nakakalungkot. Kaya sabihin, Father dyan, no? Sasalita na naman, no? Pero kung ano-anong ginagawa naman. Pwede, no? Di ba? That's why we need a faith that is buhay. Pananampalatayang buhay. Nang sa ganon, we become really that bearer of that gift. And when we go out, no, to the streets, maging attractive ang ating pananampalataya. Let me end my sharing tonight with a story. No? With a story, I guess, a very personal story. No? Noong 2016, marami pong unti-unti na sa Payatas po, yung aming Payatas po ay aming, ng mga Vincentians, ay parokya po namin yon. Pero ako po ay naka-assign sa St. Vincent Seminary. No? So 2016, na-assign po ako sa St. Vincent Seminary sa DePaul House. Naging formator po ako ng mga nagpapari. And then, sa Payatas, narinig ko marami noong napapatay. No? May mga napapatay na po doon dahil mga addict daw o napagkamalan. Pero anyway, just the same, I started, may nabisita akong mga maglola, and then all of a sudden, no, nakinig ako sa mga bata, I just found myself crying. No? Nung madinig ko yung kwento ng mga bata. At yung mga bata, umiiyak na rin. No? Mga maliliit pala ho yung mga bata. Ang dami nila. So sabi ko, ano kaya magagawa ko para matulungan itong mga ito? Yun yung tanong ko sa sarili ko, what can I do? No? They witness violence. Yes, they are not perfect family. And these young children witness violence. And I don't want them to grow up having that resentment in their hearts. Because that will be very, very tragic. You know why? Kasi that will be a continuation of another violence. Paglaki ng mga batang ito, sabi ko, they will be also aggressor one day. Kaya sabi ko, I need to do something. And I think the other priests who were with me are thinking in the same line. How can we help? Dahil ang lilit pa ho ng mga bata. So what did we do? We gathered them, no? Naalala ko nga po, nag-post ako sa Facebook ko, December noon nag-Christmas party kasi kami doon. Nag-post ako ng story ng Facebook ko about that. And then when I started writing, na umiiyak pa nga ako habang sinusulat ko yun, I still remember, I was so emotional during that time. And then I wrote that story sa Facebook ko. And I was just surprised. After some time, marami hong nakabasa ng post ko, And then some of my friends started messaging me, Father, how can we help this family? Sabi ko, to be honest, I don't know. And then they started sending money. Sabi nila, Father, please give this to the families. Our way of helping them to stand up again and how they can make better their lives. So, nakatanggap po ako ng pera. Sabi ko, ano kayang gagawin ko? Tinawagan ko yung isang pari namin kasama doon sa Parish priest po ng Payatas. Sabi ko, Father, I got some money sa aking mga kaibigan. Nangako kong ibibigay ko sa kanila. Ilan ba yung family dyan na naapektuhan at namadla ng mga tatay? Binilang niya, siguro nag-invite sila, mga 10 dumating. Okay, tapos pumunta ako ron. Then we started giving out, yung mga pagkain, mga bigas, and then tanong ko uli, so tapos na, anong gagawin after this? So, the spiritual leader in me and the psychologist in me, sinasabi ko, itong mga batang to na trauma rin. I need to do something. Kaya nagkasundo kami na we will gather this every time, almost twice a month, pa-process din namin yung mga bata, pakikinggan namin yung stories nila, nang sa ganun may maggagabay sa kanila. You know what? Since 2016 hanggang ngayon, patuloy po sila. And I'm just so proud when I hear stories like yung mga bata are excelling sa school. Nag-pandemic lang po And the children are becoming more, loving. Although, of course, may mga resentments pa rin. But the hope is there. Mas buhay sa aking palagay yung kanilang pananampalataya. Many of them were even saying, yung ibang mga bata, Father, paglaki ko, gusto ko gumanti. May mga ganon. Nung una, Ngayon, medyo yung iba nag-change na ng tono. Father, hindi na ho importanteng makaganti kami, napatawad na namin sila. Ang importante na lang ngayon ay papaano kami makatayo at magbagong buhay. My dear brothers and sisters, I think part of our calling is this, that we need to engage the world once again. And we are gifted with that faith. And that faith is itong buhay dapat. How we can make alive that faith so that we can transform the world around us. Siguro baka hindi na ho kinakailangan, kagaya ko may payatas. Baka kayo lang, baka sa family lang po ninyo. Baka lagi nag-aaway yung family nyo, may problema. Ano kaya pwede nating magawa? Baka lagi kayong nagkakatampuhan o kaya meron kayong nagkakasakitan. Ano kaya pwede kong gawin para mabuhay ang pananampalataya ng family ko? How can we bring that together and experience that love of God so that slowly we can transform again our families? Nang sa ganon yung mga bata habang lumalaki, ay maging mga mabubuting tao. Habang lumalaki, hindi sarili lamang ang iniisip. Habang lumalaki, hindi importante sa kanila maging maputi at magparitoke. Hindi importante sa kanila yon. Habang lumalaki, hindi rin importante sa kanilang gumastos ng gumastos at bumili ng mga mamahaling mga bagay na hindi naman nila kailangan. At habang lumalaki, hindi sarili lamang ang iniisip. Hindi yung kanilang pakanan lamang at walang pakialam kung ano ang nangyayari sa lipunan. Dahil pagbuhay ang ating pananampalataya, I'm sure, our generation will slowly be transformed. Iiwanan ko po ulit ito, no? Sabi ni Kristo, "Go to all the nations and proclaim the good news." We are gifted. And there is that responsibility attached to that. And that is, hindi na ho go to all the nations siguro, no? Go to your homes and proclaim the good news. Go to your neighbors and proclaim the good news. Not only in words, but more so in your actions. Salamat po. Nangako ko na matatapos tayo ng ano yun. So, buti na lang meron kayong relo na nasa harapan ko. No? So, maraming salamat. Okay.
Muli po, Father John, maraming salamat sa pagpapaalala. At kanina po habang nanonood din po ako ng Facebook nating live, may mga nag-donate po ng mga stars. Hindi ko po alam kung sinasadya nila o napipindot lang po nila. Kaya nakukonsensya po tuloy ako na habang nagre-recollection, kumita pa po ang ating parokya ng $1.25. Hindi, siguro po tuwan-tuwa yung mga nanonood, halos 100 din pong nanonood at napindot po siguro nila yung stars. Pero maliban po dun sa stars, Father, ay maraming salamat po sa pagpapaalala sa aming parokya na kami ay binayayaan para maging grasya sa kapwa namin. At tama nga po, maraming tunggali at katunggali sa ating pananampalataya. Subalit, ang hamon sa atin ay kung paano pa mas lalong makisangkot ang isa't isa sa lahat ng itong mga pagsubok. Lalo na po ngayon, Father, ay tinalian na po ulit namin yung upuan dahil kaunti na lang po muli at tumataas na ang kaso sa Tandansora ay sa Bago Bantay pala, sa Bago Bantay dito sa amin. Ay hindi po manghihina, kundi dahil sa inyo pong paalala, palalakasin pa ang pananampalataya. Tanda po ng pasasalamat naming taga-Bago Bantay sa una at tuloy-tuloy pong pagpasok ninyo at makapagmisa po sana sa isang linggo sa amin. Tanggapin niyo po ang aming replika ng aming Santo Niño de Bago Bantay at para po sa paalala at pasasalamat po namin. Mga minamahal, si Father John, maraming salamat po sa inyo pong pagpapaunlak sa amin. Yan po ang aming replika po. Hiling po namin kay Father na ang kanyang pagbabasbas para po sa aming parokya.
Thank you very much po for inviting me, Father. Thank you for making me part of your parish, no? Yeah, sana po makapagmisa rin ako paminsan-minsan, no? Thank you, and I would be happy to see you around again. Sa ngalan ng Ama, ng Anak, ng Espiritu Santo, Amen. Maraming salamat po, Panginoon, sa mga biyayang inyo pong pinagkaloob sa aming lahat. Nawa po, patuloy niyo po kaming gabayan at bigyan ng lakas ng loob upang isabuhay namin ang aming mga pananampalataya upang ipalaganap namin ang iyong kabutihan sa buong mundo. Hinihiling namin ito sa ngalan ng aming Panginoong si Jesus. Amen. Sumainyo ang Panginoon. Pagpalain nawa kayo ng makapangyarihang Diyos Ama, Anak, at Espiritu Santo. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat at good evening po at good night naman sa iba. Thank you.